Hi, this is RGK and today we'll talk about the real-time strategy game Forge Battalion. You might be interested in who the developers are, so let's do a recap. When Electronic Arts shut down Westwood Studios, Command & Conquer Red Alert, a few industry veterans from this legendary studio subsequently founded Petroglyph Games, best known for Star Wars Empire at War and more recently 8-bit Armies. For those unfamiliar with the Command & Conquer formula, it's about setting up a military base while harvesting crystals and building power plants for electricity, then sending troops to destroy the enemy base. As I played all Westwood RTS games, I have many comments about little things that Forge Battalion improved over the base formula or little things that could be improved, but I don't want this video to become too long and bore you to tears, so I will focus solely on the main features of this game. Before that, I will just say that the game runs perfectly well and key bindings can be modified. Okay, I can now address the most important feature of Forge Battalion. Just like the title suggests, players can design their own armies before going into battle. Playing battles rewards players with points in order to purchase weapons and technologies in a gigantic tech tree. These technologies encompass almost everything that has been seen in Westwood games: ballistic weapons, flamethrowers, lasers, nuclear fusion, ion cannon, sonic waves, and so on. The variety on display is vertiginous, and the drive to unlock new technologies constantly brings back to the game. However, I only unlocked roughly 2/3 of the tech tree in 10 hours, which is much too slow. Most early unlocks are good enough to make a deadly army, but it's still a bit unfair against people with fancy super advanced techs or counters. Unlocked techs are fitted on a base chassis. There are chassis for infantry, I love these cute little mechs, light vehicles, tanks, aircraft and turrets. For each you have to choose a weapon, then you can add a defensive tech, shield, stealth and so on, and finally a movement modifier, hover, jetpacks, tracks and so on. Each addition means that the unit will require a much more developed base camp before being built, which is important to keep in mind. You have 4 unit picks per factory, so there is some leeway to balance between early and late game units. All of this tech and assembly is definitely the best part of the game, and when it comes to your final army, this allows for an insane amount of combinations between units of a different type. Actually, the usual rock paper scissors is much more complex here than in most RTS games. Each weapon has a different damage modifier according to the enemy unit type. For example, times 0.25 against infantry, times 1 against light vehicles, times 2 against tanks, times 1.25 against aircraft, and then the buildings. There is a huge amount of technologies, each having its unique effects. Since players are producing all type of units and techs, it becomes very important to have a balanced army on hand at all times. Mass producing a single type of units, like in most RTS games, could be suicide. A flourishing economy will produce a huge number of varied units very quickly. However, I felt like I was drowning under all these units, and I jumped into massive battles without really being able to micromanage according to the modifiers I had so carefully picked while building my army. In these moments, I wish that I could also program the AI of each unit type to tell them what to target in priority. In Forge Battalion, there was too much on the screen and it all went too fast for careful micromanagement. In that regard, all the Blizzard titles had much better pacing as well as a small number of troops in order to let players use correctly the specific role of each unit. In Forge Battalion, the scope is too big for tactics to matter once 2 armies collide, and then all this effort on customizing troops goes down the drain. I would say that overall the micromanagement is unnecessarily involved during the base building aspect of the game, with buildings having to be constructed one at a time, while it is almost unmanageable when it matters during battles. Another downside of the modular approach to armies is that landmark units such as the Mammoth tank are missing, along with the identity of the armies. Since the customization is functional rather than visual, a defining visual style was lost. Same goes for the backgrounds of the maps and the mission. It's all very bland and clearly not as appealing as the apocalyptic atmosphere that was oozing from the Command & Conquer games. However, some great music riffs are nicely fitting. Since I mentioned the missions, single player is a huge letdown. There are no FMVs, no cutscenes, just dry blocks of text before battle, and then a few lines during the missions themselves. There are always a few different secondary objectives, protect this, destroy that, but then invariably ends in destroy all the enemy forces on the map, which becomes tiring. It ends up feeling like each battle has the difficulty of a final mission. If I want to destroy the enemy base, I play skirmish mode. When playing single player in a modern RTS, I expect the mission to put emphasis on learning about specific weapons or features, or be original and unique and completely different from the previous and the next. Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne was the first to really pull that off, even though the first Command & Conquer games also had those amazing commando missions. If the armies have no visual style and the single player is bland, then it does not matter that the game offers great customization features for hardcore players. The general audience is not going to be pulled in. The number of players has been dwindling, although it is thankfully still possible to find matches. It seems like the game is nearing the end of its early access phase and won't receive that many new changes, and thus I don't really see a bright future ahead for Forge Battalion despite the obvious talent on display. Letting the players build armies from such a vast array of possibilities is ambitious, the maps are well designed, but the game has trouble finding its feet. Too much scope for its own good, while the single player component and the atmosphere are severely lacking. Despite my negative observations, I genuinely enjoyed the time spent unlocking technologies for my faction and thinking about what units to create. I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!
Turret complete.